Now let's go to question 20. This is a question that has too many ways that you can do it. One way is to say, okay, well, if g of x is what you get when you plug in x plus 5 for f of x, then g of x would look like this: 4x plus 5 squared plus 64 x plus 5 plus 262. Then we'd have a little legwork to clean this up. So x plus 5 all squared, that's x plus 5 times x plus 5. And if we're foiling that out, x times x is x squared, and x times 5 is 5x right there. Inner times inner, 5 times x again, that's 5x again. And last times last, that's 5 times 5, and that's 25. Combining like terms there, we'd get x squared plus 10x plus 25. And that's just replacing this part right here. So we still have to distribute a 4 and also distribute the 64. So 4x squared plus 40x plus 25 plus 64x plus 64 times 5, which is 320, plus 262. And now we have a lot of like terms. So 4x squared, there's nothing that really goes with that, so we'll bring that down. 4x squared. Then we have 40x and 64x. Well, that's 104x. Last but not least, we have 25 plus 320 plus 262. And those add to 607. So this is g of x, and we're being asked for the minimum value. For what value of x that would create the minimum value here. And that's all code for the idea of the vertex. Now, the vertex of a parabola, that's the minimum or maximum value of the parabola. So if you have an xy axis, the vertex is this point in a parabola. Now, the formula for it is negative b over 2a, but that's the x value. That's where you can find the min or the max. The y value is what the min or the max value is. And that would be what you'd get if you were to plug in that x value that you get when you use the formula. So where would this reach a minimum? Let's do x is negative b over 2a. So that's negative 104 over 2 times 4. So that's negative 104 over 8. And if we divide that on a calculator, we get negative 13. So we know the answer is negative 13 here, but there are so many ways to do this question. Another way is to look at translations. To explain that, let's imagine we have a parabola at y equals x squared, just a regular parabola. If we add to the outside, that's a vertical shift, and those are normal. So plus 5 on the outside, that would be taking our parabola up 5. But if you add to the inside, that's a horizontal shift. And those are not normal, they're backwards. So normally positives to the right and negatives to the left. But here, positive would be to the left. So this parabola would be moved left 5. In f of x notation, this one is just our regular f of x. This would be f of x plus 5, and this would be f of x plus 5. So in our question, we were seeing that g of x is f of x plus 5. So in other words, to get g of x, you take f of x and you move it left 5. So if we take the vertex of f of x, the x value of the vertex is negative b over 2a, which would be negative 64 over 2 times 4, because this is our a, b, and c. So negative b over 2a is negative 64 over 2 times 4. In other words, negative 64 over 8, and that's negative 8. So just imagine you have an xy axis. We don't know how tall this thing is, but we know the vertex is at x equals -8. Now, if we move it left 5, the vertex will now be at -13. So g of x would be somewhere here. If f of x is the blue one, then g of x is the red one, and it has its minimum at x equals -13. Now we have one last way we can do this, which is through Desmos. If we know that to get g of x, you're plugging in x plus 5 to f of x, well, that would basically be like having our f of x function, and everywhere where we see an x, we're going to replace that with x plus 5. So let's just write out what that would look like real quick. G of x is f of x with x plus 5 replaced into it. So 4x plus 5 plus, and that's squared, plus 64 x plus 5 plus 262. And what does that look like on Desmos? So what you're looking at here is that we went over to Desmos and we plugged in exactly what we had. 4x plus 5 squared plus 64 x plus 5 plus 262. And what you're seeing is a parabola in this space. Desmos is great for zooming in and out. When you take an SAT, you should have access to Desmos and also bring in your graphing calculator. You need both. But where is the minimum here? Desmos is really good at telling you where the minimum or maximum would be, and you can see it's at x equals -13. We don't care about the 6 because we're only being asked about the x value. So that's -13. And so that's the answer of -13 yet again. So on question 20, we showed you 3 different ways to get the same answer.